Yes, sir. Hey, everyone. Gen X Jace here with the Rational Boomer, Mike. We're not no politics today. We're just going to talk about stuff that's on our mind. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing all right. It's called Take a Break with Gen X Jace and Boomer 2. And I do this and you do this not only for the benefit of the audience, but for our own sanity. I talk about politics a lot. You think about and talk about politics now and again too. And it's nice to get away from it. It's nice to take some moment in time and just relax and no better time to do that than as we approach the holidays. We got Thanksgiving this week and Christmas coming up and all the other holidays. Regardless of what you celebrate, it's that time of year when people are getting together with family and celebrating.
Yeah, I'm on TikTok, not as rampant as you are, as many times as you are, but got a nice little following. I got some fans that actually I don't know if they're mutuals ours, but they do listen to the podcast every time I post about it. And one of them said, "Well, man, y'all should do this 2 or 3 times." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, I'm looking to get Mike once a fucking week." You know what I mean? He's busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest because I mean, it's
Exactly.
like he's a high-in-demand motherfucker. I mean, if you haven't seen,
Well,
he's
I
got
don't know about that.
close to 500,000 followers on TikTok, and he don't fuck around. I mean, he's there live. But I'm grateful to have him once a week. But hey, Mike, if you want to start doing this every day, man, you don't need a fucking life, right?
Oh, no, no. I'm babysitting my grandson. My wife likes to see me now and again. Um,
That's a good
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, we could do it. We have no hard schedule with what we're doing here, so we could easily do more, should the time warrant and all that type of stuff. And I'm not that busy. I'm retired. I do my shit, and I do spend a lot of time recording things, and that gets a little taxing after a while. But uh, if there's something to talk about, I'm always willing to talk about it. If you say, Mike, let's go talk for an hour about something, that ain't nothing to me. I can talk for an hour about fucking anything at this point.
I
But
think
uh,
why you
go
got
ahead.
such a successful podcast is because you don't chase the you don't chase the likes, you don't chase the stars. I mean, obviously you'll do a podcast with me, so you're willing to talk to anybody. So I mean, you're not like the ones that it's like, well, I got to get so and so on, or I got to have so and so on. You're a man of the people. You remind me of not quite as crazy, but how Art Bell used to be. I mean, I think he was successful. He was a crazy motherfucker, but there's
Yeah.
always truth in a little bit of those conspiracy theories. But he talked to the people. He did. I mean, he talked to the famous, but he talked to also the people. He had people call and he gave them a platform, and he didn't like you. He didn't cut down what they were saying. Like, no, you're full of shit, because you can disagree with somebody and still be respectful about it. You don't sit there and cut them down. You give them a voice. And I mean, if you haven't listened to the Rational Boomer podcast, I mean, I would highly suggest it. And it's political. And if you found this, you're probably on our side anyway. But he always gives the Trumplafucks enough just to, bury themselves, so to speak. You, you,
Yeah.
you don't cut somebody off. You let them speak. You do this on your lives. But, I'm done kissing your ass, Mike. I just appreciate your humor.
Please. Yeah, I don't do well with that because, the idea of getting some credit because you have a lot of followers on TikTok. I don't know. Everybody else seems to care, but TikTok doesn't because I keep making less and less from TikTok's creator program. So, it's just I think when people put themselves or other people on pedestals because they have a lot of followers is a little ridiculous. It's kind of fake. Um, For me, it was just a matter of coming in here 5 years ago, almost 5 years to the day I started doing TikToks. Do it every day on TikToks, um, and the podcast and such. I never chased followers because I knew that would work against me. Me trying to figure out the system, just do what I do, see where the chips fall, and see what happens. But let's be honest. Yes, I have a lot of followers on TikTok, but I've been doing it every day for 5 years. I better have a lot of followers, or I should have fucking quit.
Yeah, I think it's funny how we were talking about how like your sons are almost embarrassed. Oh my God, our dad's a he's an influencer. Like, oh my God. It's like what's a boomer doing out there in the millennial world? I mean, like what the fuck? But I mean, a lot of boomers out there on TikTok, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's
there
nice to
is.
see that they're all not wearing the red hats.
Exactly. And this isn't the first or last time that I will embarrass my kids. So let's roll with it. And
Yeah.
with the holidays, now we're getting together with our families. We're getting together with our kids. On Thanksgiving, for example, I'm going to my son's new house where my new grandson and my 5-year-old granddaughter are. And that's pretty exciting. Some of my daughter-in-law's family will be there too, all of which I know, and we're very friendly with her dad and her aunt and uncle and stuff. So we're excited about that and starting the new holiday there. Um, what's it like down in Texas? You go get old Razorback and cut it open, or what?
Well, the Longhorns did the Razorbacks yesterday, so that's the one hog we don't have to worry about. And as sad as my Longhorns are, they're actually still alive. They got the A&M coming up, and as a Longhorn, it just really hurts me to see Texas A&M so good. They're undefeated. They're up there with Indiana and Ohio State, or excuse me, the Ohio State. But nah, families. I mean, I think we've talked about that before. I'm not real close with my family. I mean, a bunch of them
Yeah.
wear the red hats. And when my dad was alive, it was something that I felt like I had to do. And then again, I was 10 years younger. I have a thing now in my life where I'm thankful for the people I have. And honestly, about the only family I still have in my life are my stepmother. I'm still close with her. She put up with my dad so many years, so she deserves the thanks. And my
Yeah.
mom. And I have some uncles, but we're not real close because we see things different. I got a couple cousins and stuff. But there's not a lot. I mean, I got a lot of family down here, but I'm kind of the black sheep of the family. I didn't wear the red hat and I voted for the other side, but and that's all I really did. And I'm not a real fan of drinking the Kool-Aid, but I'm thankful for the family and friends that I have, and thankful to have found you, man. And on this, I mean, I'm thankful for my job. I try to as I get older, I try to appreciate what I have and not what I want. And I just fucking wish I had this 30 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, you learn that as you get older. And I was trying to explain to somebody sometime, I got a certain amount of peace. I've talked to people and people in the family, and they're always worried about this and worried about that. And what if this happened? Or remember when that happened? And I explain, I learned at a certain point where I'm just trying to glide through life. Whatever happened in the past is in the past. I can't do anything about it. So fucking forget about it. No matter how tragic it might have been, just forget about it. And I'm not worried about the future because I figure if I do what I'm supposed to be doing today the right way and enjoy what I'm doing today, the future will come the way it's supposed to come. And if you can let yourself loose of what other people think or what happened in the past, the tragedies you're struggling with now, we've all had tragedies in our past or difficult times. And you don't want that shit to drag you down now. So just forget about it. I've been able to compartmentalize everything in the past that's gone wrong. And some people might say, well, you're just hiding from it. Well, I'm not going to ruin the rest of my life for past misdeeds or past poor choices. I want to live my life today. I got a lot of things to live for. I got grandkids. I got kids. I got a daughter-in-law. I've got family. I might as well enjoy that now. I'm 65 years old. How much time do I got? We don't know, but it's a lot less than a lot of people. So I'm going to have fun for the rest of my life and fuck whatever else happened.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm a few years younger than you, but I'm 53, and even when in my 40s, even like I remember when I turned 35, and I remember thinking, well, that's the average lifespan of somebody's 70. I mean, this was a few years ago.
Yeah.
But when you're in your 40s and you're in your 50s, I mean, it's like the old wrestling thing where who Jer Jerry Lawler is, right?
Yeah.
For the WWE, he
The
was the king.
king.
He was in the Andy Kaufman skit.
Right.
One of the greatest skits of all time. Andy Kaufman was a crazy motherfucker. But I was watching him in wrestling one time, and this is about 20 years ago, and it really hit me. Terry Funk, Texan that pretty much wrestled to the day he died,
Right.
53 years old, and he was wrestling. And one of the other commentators said, "Well, middle-aged Terry Funk here wrestling, and Jerry Lawler quick as ever." 100 middle aged. How many 106-year-old people do you fucking know? I mean, it's like the you gotta just appreciate what you got. And like I said, if I could have done this, 30 years ago, but like Muhammad Ali said, if you're the same person at 50 that you were at 30, you haven't learned anything. And
Yeah.
I like to think that, I voted a certain way at a certain time. I was that way, but I never, put the red hat on. And I've always known that, human kindness, is better than greed. Because you can go to your grave knowing you help people out better than you can take $1 million with you. I mean, you can bury it with you and take it with you, so to speak. But I would just rather be kind to an animal. I would rather, it's like the old George Strait song, Amarillo by morning. I ain't got a dime, but what I got is mine. I ain't rich, but Lord, I'm free. I mean, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for my job. I don't make a lot of money. I'm thankful for my, people I work with, people I know and I've met in my life, and I'm just so happy. And I don't want to die, but if I died tomorrow, I think I would be richer than a lot of people I know that have a lot more than me.
People really strive for fame or money. And the reason they're doing that is to get respect and love and attention. The fact of the matter is, you can get all those things without being greedy and being an asshole by just giving it to other people. There
Yeah.
are people that don't have a lot of money that people respect and love because of the way they behave. But these people are so worried or not very confident in themselves, so they got to get some outside effect to get them the respect they hope to get. And that's, in the end, that just doesn't work out. And when you're striving all this time to steal money, be greedy, grift money, get attention, self-aggrandize yourself, when you're doing that, it doesn't give you the time to sit and really appreciate certain things in your current moment, whether it be your family or whether it be entertainment. I'll give you an example. My wife and I are retired, and I do TikToks and I do podcasts and stuff. But during the day, sometimes my wife and I will go out to see a movie. And we see different kinds of movies, comedies, historical things, all kinds of different things. And just the other day, I went and saw the movie Nuremberg. Now, I knew what Nuremberg was. I knew what the situation was. It was about prosecuting Nazis coming out of World War II. But I had no idea how much I didn't know about Nuremberg and how it really played out. And I have to say, that movie was excellent. Russell Crowe was in it. Rami Malek is in it. And it was an amazing movie. It was very cinematic, and we sat there for a couple hours and watched this. And that's how I gauge a movie. Some people could say it's a good movie, it's a bad movie. If I pay my $10 to go in and sit down, and another $10 for popcorn, so it's $40 for my wife and I to go see a movie. If I pay the $40 and I walk out satisfied, happy, content with the way it ended, and feel like I was entertained, I don't care about the cinematography or the directing. I had a good time. I paid my money, and that movie was very good. It taught me a lot, and it kind of scared me a little too, because of how many parallels there are between Nazi Germany and the people in that movie that played the Nazis and what's going on today. Herman Goring was one of the main characters, played by Russell Crowe, and he was the psychiatrist diagnosed him as a narcissist, which was interesting. And as I watched Herman Goring through this thing, it was almost exactly like Donald Trump is today, but in current times. It was frightening, but it was very informative, and I was entertained. And to me, that's a perfect movie.
So it wasn't like, it was like going and seeing Schindler's List, and also
Yeah,
I did it a few couple years ago seeing Oppenheimer. I wanted to see that because it
another
had,
great movie.
but it was a part of history that I think people need to learn. And that's one thing about the media and about entertainment that I think a lot of the people that are in this, especially this administration, want to oppress is the entertainment. The arts is what they always go for. Just like, who did that back in the 30s and 40s, the Nazis. They want to suppress art because art is a way of expressing yourself. And they don't
Right.
want people to express themselves. They want people to fall in line. Who was the other, you said Russell Crowe, and who was the other actor you said was in it?
Rami Malek.
Is that the
Now,
one that was
Rami, he's the
Queen?
guy that played Freddie Mercury.
Yes. Okay, that's what I thought it
And then
was.
he was in another movie where he was like a wimpy FBI agent that went rogue and killed the people that killed his wife.
Is that good?
He's quite an actor. He's quite an actor.
Yeah, he was he was awesome as Freddie Mercury. I think Bohemian Rhapsody is one of the greatest movies of, biopics that, I think that,
I agree.
they should have like, all biopics should be to that. Did it miss a lot of stuff? Did it, kind of have liberties? But I mean, I think if you put any movie up there, a biopic, it's going to be boring as fuck unless you improvise a lot. But it's kind of like the yeah, with the music and stuff. And I had friends of mine that, like I said, they're more into the modern music, but they fucking became fans of Queen. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you not be a fan of Queen? I mean, Radio Gaga, I mean, it's like, I mean, wait, I mean, just, I mean, that's the only band that I think if I'm right about this, that each member had written a number one song. That's the only band. All four members had written the number one song. Another one bites the dust. You know, Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, it's. I mean, you listen to somebody like Brian May. Brian May's a fucking rocket scientist. I mean, he is somebody.
Literally. Literally.
I remember when that movie came out, and I really got it such a hit for it because I liked Queen. I grew up listening to Queen, and I remember seeing Brian May, and there was nobody enjoying that second ride than Brian fucking May. He was having the fucking time of his life. He was taking it all in. He knew this wasn't going to last forever, but that's kind of what we're talking about. You got to, when you're in something, you got to just kind of take it all in and be thankful for what you got.
It's funny after I watched the Nuremberg movie and I watched Oppenheimer too, and I realized that I learned so much about what happened during that time that I never knew. And I thought that was ridiculous for something that's happened so long ago and was so important, whether it be through school or the mainstream media. I didn't know any of this shit. So I'm starting to wonder if not unlike the 60s. The 60s music, the protest songs played a huge role in us getting through the 60s and through the Vietnam War and all that stuff. The people got the information and the whole vibe of what was going on through the music. Um, and 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 I think maybe the entertainment business is maybe missing an opportunity. We have a mainstream media that doesn't give us all the information or accurate information. So we are a country of ill informed, misinformed, and uninformed people. And that doesn't bode well for unity if everybody's got a different story. So when you watch something like Nuremberg, um, maybe we need more movies that actually tell the truth, more music that tells the truth. That's the one thing about the music today. There's very little substantive
Yeah.
music. I'm not saying good music. You can like music for anything. You can like the tune, you can like the melody, you can like the whole feel of it. But um, when you think back to the 60s and music then, like For What It's Worth or Bob Dylan songs, I don't even know if Bob Dylan knew what he was singing at the time. He claims he didn't. He's just putting words together. That's what he said. But those words had an impact to people and made people think. And that's not what the media does anymore. It tells you what to think, it doesn't allow you to think on your own. And maybe we need to lean toward entertainment to bring us back to the fucking normality of what's really going on and getting the true information. Maybe if the movies and maybe if the music focused on delivering a real message that was important, like they did in the 60s, uh, we might have a different situation than we're in now.
Well, I think people have gotten lazy. I mean, I think that,
Oh, yeah.
even with the artist, because you were talking about AI earlier, how about that's kind
Right.
of, taken over certain things. And I see that with a lot of the media too, is that, our biggest problem right now is that the oligarchs are buying up the media. I mean,
Right.
there's no, even MSNBC is not MSNBC anymore. It's MS now, so to speak. There was a time, I mean, perfect example, Walter Cronkite, this last week was the assassination of JFK.
Hmm.
And, I've seen a lot of it too because he visited San Antonio right before he went to Dallas.
Right.
And you see that, to where Walter Cronkite broke down and when he announced that Kennedy died. We wouldn't get that today. We get the flashpoints, so and so's dead, is
Yeah.
Biden responsible? That would be, Fox's headline, if something happened. I mean, it's all about chasing the headlines now, and I think AI has done a lot with that because it's so easy. I mean, hell, I mean, you ever notice that you go on Google now and you type in something, you don't even have to ask for it, and AI gives you an answer. I
Right.
mean, it's like it's gotten to the point that, AI may not necessarily be taking all our jobs, but it may just make us dumber.
Yeah, I think it's probably more likely to do that. I mean, I've seen something that I think is pretty troubling for art. There has been people who have created an AI avatar, somebody that looks real. The AI has created the voice, the AI has created the song. So you can have an entertainer get a hit record with a punchy, poppy, hooky song and put it out there and people will buy it.
Yeah.
And it comes from nothing. It comes from no soul, no heart, nothing. It's just there. And mechanically, it does the right things to catch people's interest. But but what it lacks is soul and heart and any substance. I mean, you can take a perfectly done AI of the right face and the right voice and the right song and put it out there and say, yeah, that's a good song. But for me, you can go back to the 40s and listen to uh, mono recording of some blues guy playing an out of tune guitar, singing in an out of tune voice, and get more out of that than I can get out of this prefab shit that we're listening to now.
Well, also what they're kind of following into too is AI is taking the place of dead musicians.
Yeah,
There's a singer, his name's Ronnie James Dio. He sang in Rainbow. He sang in a band called Elf, and he was also the guy that replaced Ozzy in Black Sabbath.
right.
He's been dead for since about 2010, but there is a touring entity that has a hologram of him playing. And I
Wow.
think and I think also it does it too. It's done it with ABBA, it's done it with Elvis, and it's done it with Tupac. Well, 2 years ago, Kiss did their final tour, and they were wrapping it up at Madison Square Garden. Well, they introduced these things called avatars, which is AI. And the thing about AI though is that it's not quite there to really replace something, but it's getting smarter all the time.
Right.
So, I mean, what's to stop? I mean, they did this a few years ago with the Star Wars movies where they brought Peter Cushing back in Star Wars, Carrie Fisher. So, what is to stop them from bringing a Humphrey Bogart back? What, Spencer Tracy, into these movies? I mean, the technology is in the infant stages, but it seems like, and it's kind of sad, is that people, we both agree that, AI is not taking over everything yet. You still got to put in the programmers, you still got to do stuff. But I think I mean, there's stuff that I get sent that people believe, and it's so
Oh, yeah.
obvious to me that it's fake, but they believe this shit. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm just like, that's not real, right? But if it's my only thing is if it's freaking those people out now and they're starting to believe that shit, what happens when it gets really good?
Yeah. I mean, I think we kind of went through this. Remember when CDs came around? We had everything on vinyl or tapes or something, and vinyl specifically. And then the CDs came out, and then the audiophile said, "Oh, I don't like CDs because they don't have the warmth or the whole vibe about it." And I have enough of an ear, having owned a recording studio at one time, that I can tell the difference. I don't know that it's dramatic for the average person. There's a lot of things I hear in recordings that most people won't ever hear. And that's one thing I had to learn when I had a recording studio. I'll hear some little teeny thing that's wrong and I want to fix it. But the average Joe doesn't hear it. And again, it goes back to what you've said before that People are fucking lazy. They just want to hear what they want to hear and then move on to the next thing. And I'm not going to fault people for that. They've got other things in their life to do, but we have to take that into consideration uh, when things are being created. That people take everything at face value, whether it's AI or something else. Um, and there has to be some responsibility of being honest and decent when you're doing that. It's great if you can create an AI that shows Tupac with Mr. Rogers. I've seen a million of those. They're fucking hilarious. I know they're not real. Uh, and it's kind of entertaining. But to another level, it's kind of disparaging the reputation of Mr. Rogers and maybe even Tupac to a certain extent. It's cheapening both of them.
Yeah, there is a thing to where I think I don't know I mean it was Mr. Rogers' estate or somebody's estate, but they sued these companies or these creators for creating like Mr. Rogers at WrestleMania, like he's taking on his arch enemy, Big Bird or something like that. I mean, I know that. I mean, I think we kind of disagree on AI. I think eventually it will rule the world. I know you're a little bit more skeptical. Just working in technology as much as I do, I just look at things differently a little bit, I guess.
Yeah,
But what gets me and what I'm kind of seeing too is that, yeah, the CDs and the radio, the CDs didn't kill the radio industry and all this stuff like that, home recordings. But I think what did kill the radio industry was things like Napster and file sharing,
yeah.
because I don't think the industry got in front of it enough to where, the cat's out of the horses left the barn. There's no getting that back. Now music is just so expendable that, people don't pay for music anymore. And I just don't know what the record industry, they didn't get ahead of it, but I don't know what they could have done to stop it. Because I mean, you look on YouTube, I mean, there's a song on YouTube that's not on Spotify for some reason. You just go to YouTube and you can download a program right there in the open that tells you, hey, convert YouTube to MP3. I mean, it's like there's the artists are getting screwed. The record companies, in a sense, they get like pennies on the dollar. And I think, yeah, I know you can do that, but I do subscribe to Spotify to pay the few cents. I know it's not what they deserve, but also I think a lot of the people too don't give a fuck because for so long the record industry was screwing people over with the cost of CDs. I mean, my God,
Yeah.
they would charge you like 20, 25 bucks for a fucking CD that costs what, 2, $3 to make, including the long box. So
I,
I
I
think,
used to, I used to in my recording studio, I'd have productions that I would do, and I would give them to the client in the form of a CD. You'd burn the CDs, and to burn a 30 or 60-minute CD of whatever is on it, I would do thousands of those, and I could do them fairly fast. I bought a CD duplicator. I could do 10 at a time and do it in 2 minutes,
oh yeah,
for a 30 or 50-minute CD. And it doesn't cost $2 or $3. It costs pennies. It's fucking literally fucking pennies. But you're talking about the musicians right now getting screwed. The musicians have always gotten screwed. The musicians got screwed by people who stole their publishing rights, who paid them pennies on the dollar for the sales of their records. I mean, the record industry, when I was doing it, it was just a accepted fact that you would go in and try to get a deal, and they give you an advance of 50,000 or $100,000, and you'd produce an album. And what people don't understand, that advance is not really an advance; it's a temporary loan. It's all recoupable. So what happens then is they give you $100,000. You produce the album. You got to pay to produce the album with that $100,000, and whatever you have left, you get to keep. But then it comes back to the record company in when the records sell. They take their money first before you start to see any money. But then you throw in the fact that any artist normally has to audit what was going on because the record companies regularly lie to you and cheat you out of money that you deserved. So it's always been a mess like that right now. And we've come to a time now, and artists don't make money on records or recordings anymore, like you said. You can get this stuff pretty quickly, pretty cheaply. It's totally switched. People used to go on tour to sell records. Now they do records to do big ass tours.
Yeah.
That's where they make their money. And I got to be honest with you, if the record companies and these record executives are getting fucked, good. It's about goddamn time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's those I think it came out around the time of the because a lot of those bands that, yeah, you're a one-hit wonder, you think you got a lot of money, but you got to pay the publishing, you got to, your record company, I mean, they'll give you a record deal, but it could be for two or three albums, but they own all the rights to those albums. And you see bands like Springsteen, you see bands like, Fleetwood Mac, selling their catalogs is because they own them. That don't happen nowadays. I mean, look at Taylor Swift, the biggest artist in the world. She didn't have her music for a while and she had to buy it back.
Right.
So, yeah, and I don't know anybody bigger than Taylor Swift. So if you're out there starting over, good luck to you.
Let me tell you a story about publishing that I have a direct connection with my brother and my friend Monty Moyer, who played in the group The Time, also wrote and produced for Jimmy Jam's Flight Time when they were real popular, and they did some things. Jimmy and Terry got fired from The Time. They went and started their own production company, and they're wildly successful. They hired a bunch of people to work for them. One of them was my friend Monty Moyer. Now, because of who he was kind of a partner, but not really a partner. And while there, Monty Moyer wrote a few songs that were hits. If You Were Here Tonight by Alexander O'Neill. That was a big hit back in the day. He also wrote a few songs for Janet Jackson, like Principle.
Hmm.
Now, when Monty was there, he was pretty much getting screwed over. They were basically taking all his publishing and part of his writing, even though Monty wrote and kind of produced the whole thing. It was his song. He wrote it, he produced it with Janet Jackson or whatever. So when the rift happened between them, Monty said, "Fuck this, I'm going to get out of there." And at that point, he's a young guy, and Jimmy and Terry basically said, "Well, we're keeping all the publishing and all that stuff." And as a young guy thinking, "Well, I'll just do a bunch more hits," he just walks away. Well, there was a new rule that was passed recently that any songs you have produced or written, the publishing comes back to you after 35 years. So the song Pleasure Principle, If You Were Here Tonight, and some of the other songs were pretty much owned by Jimmy and Terry and their company. But after 35 years, Monty would get those rights back. Okay. Um, and so, um, but you have to fight for it. You have to get a lawyer. It takes months to get what's yours is back, even though that law is there, and it's really a hassle.
Of
And
course.
this all started. Um, Rihanna came out with a huge song, "Work." It was one of the biggest hits of the year, if not the decade. "Work, work, work." It's a terrible song. But in that song, they didn't take a sample; they took an interpolation of Monty's song, which was called "If You Were Here Tonight." And they didn't want to get sued, so they acknowledged that this was used, and Monty was the one that produced it. So they acknowledged it, and they sent a note to him and said, "Yeah, you're a co-writer on this song. What are we going to pay you percentage wise?" Okay. And Monty didn't even know they fucking did it. When he heard the song, he couldn't even hear the interpolation.
Hmm.
Um, so um, so my brother and the lawyers and stuff started working on this, and they got a small cut. Now at this point, Monty didn't have all his publishing. He had a small fraction of his publishing on that song, but that song was not even publishing. He had none of the publishing, but he had a small percentage of the writing, even though he was the only writer. Well, they fought to get that, and after that song got to be a huge hit, and Monty finally got some money, he made a few, if not more, $100,000 just off his small portion
Wow.
off that song. So then they said, we're getting all our shit back. We're getting all our shit back. And can you imagine if he got all the publishing, which he deserved from that? That would have been fucking amazing. So um, so he had to fight to get it back. He got a small piece of it back, and now he's got all his stuff back. And anything in the future that happens, he will be able to make that money. But that's what I'm saying. There are people always above you that are ready to grift you, steal from you, lie to you, cheat you. And it happens all the time in the music business. And it really hasn't gotten any better. That's why people are better off just distributing shit through their own sources,
Yeah,
through the internet.
I've read about that too, about how in the early days of when Ozzy Osbourne went solo, he he had Randy Rhoads, who was a great guitar player, and he had a bass player that the bass player pretty much wrote all the lyrics for everything because Ozzy wasn't much of a writer. He was, more of the figurehead, kind of like a lot of your artists, they aren't writers. And we all know who Ozzy Osbourne's wife is. Well,
Yeah.
she had a thing to where they had a 40th anniversary of, I think it was Blizzard of Oz, his first solo album, and I think Diary of a Madman, his second album. And what she did is she wanted to cut that original writer out for those royalties. So what she did is she had a couple artists go there and re-record it. Well, the thing got out. I mean, and we were talking about that before. When they go back and re-record something, it's never as good as it was, 40 years ago.
No, it's
Well,
just different.
people got pissed off about it, and people rightfully so. And she lost that battle, but she tried to extort them and get them to sign these, giving up all claims to everything, even though they wrote everything. I mean, and Ozzy and Sharon have more money than they ever needed. And I don't really blame Ozzy so much because he's lucky to know where the fuck he's at, for the last,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just about greed. And there was another thing that came out too, where there was a band before Black Sabbath, they were called Earth. And they have these things to where they have these old recordings with Tony Iommi, and they were called Earth before, they became Black Sabbath. And it's like they have these recordings, and the guy owns the rights to them. And he gave her, a heads up, hey, this is coming out. Well, Tony Iommi, the guitar player, didn't want them out, but Sharon got involved, and she's, well, I'll see you in court for this stuff. But it's just like, and she's like, well, we can't, impede on the uh, the integrity of Black Sabbath. I go, well, you did that already by being such the bitch you are to the people that actually wrote the music and lyrics. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
and I think, yeah, she saved Ozzy, but it's just when I see her crying over Ozzy and all this stuff, and she's just a bad person. I mean, it's just like you have these people that, like Monte, that, were a part of something that was very integral to something, but they're not the big name like Prince or Ozzy or, Morris Day, you know, but they were still a part of that. And it's like there's so much part of the pie that you can share it without, you're not going to go fucking hungry. And it's just fucking greed, man. I mean, and it's just greed.
Well, and I'll be honest with you. The short time I spent in the music business, I quickly realized that there were nothing but horrible people. I can count on one hand the people that I thought were decent and honest and fair, but the vast majority of them are just mercenary and criminal and thieves. It really is. And I think that's the entertainment business in general. Everybody's out to, get their credit and make their money, whether they deserve it or not. And I saw it in the music business, certainly. I talked to one guy. His name was John McClain, and I was talking to him about an artist who had no business getting a deal, but he was just before he was the executive producer because he was the executive on Janet Jackson's upcoming album, which was Control, which was huge.
Yes.
Um, and this guy was the most arrogant piece of shit I've ever met in my life. Um, he was just an asshole. Um, but and he wasn't very honest. He was very kind of corrupt. You know what happened to him? He went on to be the president of Interscope Records, and now with John Branca, he and this John McClane control Michael Jackson's publishing company, which which at one time my client Jerry, um, my brother and I and Jerry had a contract with Michael Jackson's publishing company for the kid to do songs for it, and that whole thing was they paid a lot of money to this kid and never did anything to try to sell his songs, so nothing much ever came out of it. There was a couple of missed opportunities that they fucked up on. They just kept paying this kid 100 grand a year to write these songs. He'd write 20 songs, and then they do nothing with them. It's just all shifting money around in ways that they can kind of grift or steal from other people. Now, those songs, he wrote 20 songs over a year for 3 or 4 years. Where are those songs? I don't know where the songs are. They're either in a box someplace, or maybe they're showing up as samples in other songs that we should know about, but we don't.
Yeah, there's a thing going on right now. One of Michael Jackson's, I think his daughter, Paris Jackson, she's actually suing the estate because they're not, I guess, she says they're not paying her, I guess, what she's due. I mean, you talk about his kids. I mean, Michael Jackson made more money than, they could ever burn in one, for the rest of their
Yeah,
lifetime. And, but, what did kind of surprise me is that, maybe there's a little humanity in those estates. Did you see that the O.J. Simpson estate is actually going to play the Goldmans?
I heard that. That's surprising to me,
And I
and I
and I
didn't know he
know,
had that much money.
oh yeah, he hid that shit. I mean, he had plenty of time to hide it. It's it's kind of like the snap money, and like the shutdown was how long? He got enough time, and you talk about moving stuff around. Doesn't that sound just like the world, how the world works right now? I
It
mean,
really
it's
does.
it's a grift, and you have these people that make 40, 50,000 a year supporting these billionaires. And like, it's that's why I'll never understand it. And I think that's a reason why I kind of don't vote the way I used to, is because, I went into a field that I see how stuff works more up hand now, and realize that those people that are, for the rich people don't, they're not, I mean, when you have kids that won't pay them, I mean, when you don't have when you fight against the minimum wage, but doesn't give people, a living wage, and you wonder why the fuck they have to apply for SNAP benefits, because they could be working at McDonald's and Burger King at the same time and not make enough, and they could be able to be full-time fucking jobs. I mean, if you put more money into the people's hands, we wouldn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But no,
Yeah.
and though people will go to their graves, and it goes, why do you do that? And it's like, well, I mean, you look at somebody like Amazon, they don't pay their fair share. NBC doesn't pay their fair, Universal doesn't pay their fair share. I mean, but if we don't pay our taxes, motherfucking IRS is knocking on our fucking door, and that there's something wrong with that right there.
Well, a good example is Marjorie Taylor Greene announcing that she's going to resign. She's maybe getting death threats, or maybe she doesn't feel like Donald Trump's going to support her enough in her upcoming election. She's going to get beat in her upcoming election because nobody in the Democratic side likes her. Republicans now hate her. She's got no chance of winning, so she decides to resign as of January 5th. Why did she pick January 5th?
I heard.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you one reason. She's already accumulated $25 million in whatever insider trading grift she can get. I mean, she was a broke ass bitch when she came to DC. She wanted that salary, and she made 25 million, so she's comfortable there. But it just so happens that January 5th or 6th, whenever she's leaving, is just after the point where she qualifies for her lifelong pension. So if everybody's talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, oh, she's just too afraid. No, she did this all for financial reasons for herself. She got what she got. She sees the end of the road, and she's going to take off and write a book or run for governor or whatever the fuck she's doing. But this is only about self enrichment. That's all it's about.
She's going to end up on Fox or OAN or Newsmax or something like that. She's going to be another Sarah Palin. She's going to be the hero of the stupid. And
Yeah.
the thing about the the thing about the her is that she came in and talking about the swamp. The
Right.
swamp this, the swamp that, Nancy Pelosi's been a public figure for too long. She's part of the swamp. Well, she has been too long, and it's a good thing she's finally gone. But everything is projected, everything that they do is projected. Like, I personally think that, she's getting out at the right time because I think the rats are starting to jump the ship. And I know that, we're not really, political here, but, there was another thing that came out yesterday where Marco Rubio released something saying that the Ukraine peace plan was all Russia's doing. Well, of course, he's backtracking that now, but you're seeing the people on that side are doing what Trump does. They're putting that little bit of nugget out there to get enough people to believe it to start something. So what the
Right.
Republicans now are they're planning stuff, and it's like you said, the Epstein file, they can try to hide it, but there's so many fucking leaks that I mean, it's just going to come out. And and I heard Eric say something about like who's your favorite actor or favorite politician. Is like, well, I don't have a favorite politician. That's for fucking sure. I voted for Biden, but I ain't got no fucking t-shirt or flag. And the way I look at actors is that I'm able to differentiate the person from what they're doing. Does that make it right? No. But if there are people on there that are lovable, I mean, we hear stuff about Walt Disney now, how a horrible person he was.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I mean, it's gonna get out there, and it's like that cut you get on there when you don't have any platelets left. It's just gonna keep bleeding no matter how much gauze you put on it.
No, I think we're at the point where the shit's starting to fall downhill, and they're not going to be able to stop it. The mistakes will happen, and I think we're talking about the media. There's always a point where the media is going to build you up. There's money in building you up. There's views. There's popularity in building you up. But in every situation like that, there's also always the tipping point when it becomes more popular and more valuable for them to take you down. And I think that's about where we're getting to with the media now. They're saying, okay, now it's going to bring us views if we kick Donald Trump's ass, if we embarrass Donald Trump. And once that starts, there's really no stopping it. Once you allow the media to pretty much control the narrative, you're stuck with whatever you got. And they're only trying to make money. So if crucifying you is what's going to make them money, you're fucking done.
But I also think if there's any party above the Republicans and the ones that bent over for him, who was responsible for the rise of Trump, it's the media.
Absolutely.
If we would have seen half the pushback we're starting to see now, he may not have been a thing. Why was the Access Hollywood not a thing? Why was that not a bigger story? Why? But this Epstein theme seems to be a little bit different because it's not stopping. They went away those few months. The shutdown happened. They tried to stop it, but it's still going.
Yeah.
And it's like Will quoted the Don Henley song "Dirty Laundry," talking about the bubble-headed bleach blonde.
Right.
On at five, she can tell you about the train wreck, a gleam in her eye. But there's also a part of the song goes, "Kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down." They love to see people fail.
Yeah.
And but you look at Trump now, and it's funny. We try to do a taking a break, but Trump is so entwined in our lives that he's made everything political. You can't almost get a fucking away from it. Everything is fucking political nowadays. I mean, even the halftime Super Bowl show we talked about. But there's got to be a time, and we're going to be long gone. But there are going to be movies like the Nuremberg trials that you talked about coming out. Probably 50 years from now. It's like, well, how did they fucking do that? They'll be asking the same questions like now, like how did we let the Nazis rise? And when you see some of your fellow people that you used to think had a little few brain cells, you see how easy it was for it to happen.
Well, you can tell how pervasive politics has become because of how it is impacting entertainment. I was never a huge fan of Kid Rock, but now I hate the fucker just because of his ideology politically. Jelly Roll, same thing. He seemed like a amenable fat guy that could sing a little bit. And now you go, I don't know. Or you get a movie like Nuremberg come out. Do you think Nuremberg came out because it was time to talk about Nuremberg?
Good.
I think it came out because of the parallels we're seeing now in our regular or our current day politics. People saw an opportunity to jump on something and they did it. Same with music, music taken aside, and you'll see a bunch of people taking the side of the Trumpian side because that was popular. Those fuckers buy stupid T-shirts, so they'll buy stupid records too. It's so pervasive. It's impacted our media, our entertainment, and everything. And that's what's troubling. It's like a big fucking soup of shit that's all together. I mean, when there's a guy on TikTok that I love, and I've loved him because he was kind of like the soundtrack of my life in the late 70s, mid to late 70s. And he's on TikTok. His wife's on TikTok because she's a manager, but that's Stephen Bishop. Now, Stephen Bishop had a number of hits, On and On, Save It for a Rainy Day, and a bunch of stuff, Everybody Needs Love. And they're great, nice, fun songs that kind of illustrate what it was like in the 70s, You don't hear those kinds of songs anymore. They all have to have an angle or a gimmick or something like that. And I think we're all worse off for that as people who consume entertainment, that all of it's fucking tainted to some extent, either through the artist itself or the music itself. And it's frustrating. It's like that old phrase, we can't have anything nice anymore. And that's kind of the way it is.
Yeah, everything's got an agenda. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, but I don't know. The whole thing about I was watching TV the other day and they were talking about the Academy of Country Music Awards. And they were talking about all the artists playing and fuck, I didn't know any of them.
Yeah.
And you're talking to somebody that was from Texas that, grew up on, George Strait and grew up on, you know, the country, Hank Williams Jr., that stuff that, that I look at country music now and it looks like an Instagram.
Yeah.
It looks like an Instagram profile. And then I saw all this hate for Keith Urban and I was like, that's kind of weird. I did Keith Urban. I like some of his stuff. Guy's a hell of a guitar player. And then he just recently, you're finding some stuff out about him that he may have cheated on Nicole Kidman and they're getting divorced. Well, he played a rally for Mar-a-Lago. Not a Trump thing. He played at Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
And it's like, it's just I'm so tired of just being so disappointed in people that you get to the point to where I just don't want to pay attention anymore. I mean,
You
it
know,
gets to the
some of
point.
these artists, some of
Yeah.
these artists are either in favor of Donald Trump or just so greedy they'll take money from anybody. And
Yeah.
either way, I don't like them.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. And it's like, how much, I mean, but you think about there's artists too that, just stay out of it. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
could believe something, but stay out of it. Honestly, if I was, that way, I'd stay out of it because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, if you take a side. I mean, yeah, you obviously, have your podcast where you take a side, but there when you're an entertainer, I would think that you would kind of just, stay out of it and not, give an opinion, but people got to be people and people got to give their opinions. So, I mean,
Well,
it's
and people get caught up in their own importance, and you get that with people on TikTok. They get a certain amount of notoriety on TikTok, and now they think they're special, and that whatever they say is gospel. Um, there was a time when it was music or entertainment in general, or people on the radio. There was a little bit of authenticity. I mean, I guarantee you, even some of the people you see on TikTok, you think you know who they are when they're on TikTok and doing their little presentation. But when you meet them, you might like them more, like them less. They aren't anything like that. They're putting on a show. And that's one of the things I try to do with TikTok is what you see is what you get. If I was sitting in a room with you, talking to you, it'd be just the same thing. Well, you know that because we
Oh, yeah.
talk when we're not recording. I'm just, I don't know why people find it so hard to be authentic. And like I say, I think we are it's costing us something because art is an important part of it. You know, the creative prospect possibilities and how it affects us. And I think a lot of media these days, media and entertainment, affect us negatively because it's all just kind of trying to churn up that divisiveness and this adversarial attitude because that's where the money is. And that's not what art's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a pleasant experience.
And I think also too what some TikTok creators are doing that you used to kind of go to get advice from some people, they are trying to drum up the worst case scenario because you will come back because you're afraid.
Right.
Because you give a positive message like it's going to be okay, you may not come back to that person because they're not giving you the gloom and doom. People like gloom and fucking doom.
Yeah, they
Oh,
do.
this is going to happen and this is going to happen. Well, I mean, and it's like all these scenarios coming about the shutdown, like, Mike Johnson's not going to bring the government back until January. I mean, I kind of feel for that too, because, I don't trust Johnson, whatever his fucking name is, and the Speaker of the House. But you got to also realize that the shutdown of the government was bigger than anything that they were doing. The Republicans own the Senate, the White House, and the House, but the shutdown was bigger than they were. There's no way they could have kept going on with, the air traffic controllers, not getting paid. It's
Right.
bigger than them, and honestly, it's bigger than Trump and Trumpism, and eventually that will fade too. But but you have that negative Nelly that, hey, I get more viewers when I'm, talking about, the bad stuff than I do when I give something positive. So I think you've seen a lot of creators that you might have respected doing that a lot.
Well, what people have to understand is that whether we're talking about the media, whether we're talking about government and politicians, whether we're talking about entertainment, it's a constant manipulation to get you to spend money or
Correct.
pay attention. People have said that in this information age that attention is currency, and to a certain extent that's true because if you got a lot of attention, you can turn that into money depending on who you are. But people have to understand that every day when you wake up, whether you're reading a newspaper, watching television, on the internet, there's a constant attempt to manipulate you. Same with the government. The whole thing with the government shut down. That wasn't necessary. That was a manipulation. It was a game of chicken. And then when the Democrats caved and agreed to the CR, everybody was mad at them, and they say, "Oh, this is ruining it for the Democrats." I go, fuck, they'll something else will be up, something else will happen where the attention, and you could almost see it as a manipulation in the sense, well, just give them this, we'll deal with it between now and December, but let's let all the other shit flow because the big news was the shutdown, and as soon as the shutdown's over, the big news that may ultimately impact the Republicans and Donald Trump get to pour out. It's all a manipulation. It's all a strategy, and people have to understand that whether you're watching a movie or music, there is a certain amount of manipulation there. And it's got to be tiring for the public to go through constant manipulation.
Yeah, I know we're getting kind of close to the end here, but the one thing I would say is that the one of the biggest injustices of the world and fair reporting is when the media was able to start making profits. I think it all
Yeah.
went out the window there. And as we wrap this up, Mike, is there we got Thanksgiving break coming up as we're talking about. Is there anything you're looking forward to? And maybe a TV show, a movie coming out, spending time. I mean, what are you looking forward to in this next week?
As far as movies, I don't have anything particular in mind. I was looking forward to seeing Nuremberg. We did see that. Other movies, I can take or leave either way. The most important thing for me is to be able to hang out with my grandkids. You know, I got a 5 year old who's a lot. I've got a 5 month old or 6 month old that is just fun as hell. See my kids, my grandkids, my daughter-in-law. It just, it's just a time when you can kind of let things go a little bit and spend some time with people. And I think that's very crucial. You know, we spend all day worrying about what's in the news. There's got to be periods of time where you just spend family time with family and friends and just fucking live your life as opposed to live for what's next.
Yeah, I like the holidays because I mean, honestly, people seem nicer. I mean, they're still the same dickheads.
Yeah.
I would like to say that, the politics will slow down, but with this administration, it won't. What I'm looking forward to, besides, spending time with, family and the dogs, is there's a new PBS miniseries coming on about the American Revolution.
Oh, I
It's
heard about that. Ken Burns, right?
Burns, and it has Paul Giamatti playing John Adams, and I think we've talked about that HBO miniseries before.
Right,
Anything
right.
Paul Giamatti's in, I'm all for. And I still
Yeah,
haven't
he's
watched
great.
Garfield thing you were talking about that President Garfield thing. So that's kind of like what I want to do. I want to go back and watch both those things that the PBS documentary series, the American Revolution, and also the one on the Garfield assassination because we kind of look at like how the American Revolution started. They were pissed off about taxes on tea.
Right.
They were pissed off. But now it's like, we have an individual in power that, the founding fathers are probably rolling over their graves now. How the hell did they elect this guy?
Yeah,
So, I mean, we've come a long way, but I'm like, we talk about hope, and I'm optimistic that, we're turning a page, as Bob Seger would say.
absolutely. And I think it's interesting and entertaining to listen to some of these things, but I think we as a country have to be a little better informed, a little better educated. Uh, and if somebody who's interested in history, like myself, can go to a movie like Nuremberg and literally learn a lot about what happened then. It was before my time, of course, but it just tells me I got a lot to learn about history, and knowing history is very important. The revolution, I know the basics of the Revolutionary War. I don't
You were
know
there,
the
weren't you?
intricacies. Well, Ed was. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Uh, Ed was
You
the
roll with Paul
morning
Revere.
guy. The guy was. He was Ed. Ed was the morning guy on Plymouth Rock Radio, the first rock radio station in the country. Anyway, all right. Well, let's wrap things up.
And we thank you for joining us with Gen X Jace and Boomer 2 on taking a break. And you guys have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. We'll talk to you soon.